Have you ever wondered what happens after the dead are laid to rest? What stirs beneath the soil when no one is watching? Tonight, I'll tell you a story from the grave, and by the end, you'll wonder if you'll ever sleep safely again. They say the dead don't speak, but I've heard them. I've felt their breath colder than fog, whispering through the cracks of a coffin lid. My name's Jonah. I work as both embalmer and gravedigger for a small cemetery outside Whitby. I've buried over 500 souls in 10 years. I used to think that made me numb. I was wrong. It started last November, right before the ground froze hard enough to break your wrists with the spade. A man was brought in, Arthur Linton, age 58, died in his workshop. Sudden heart failure, nothing strange. But when I unzipped the body bag, his face wasn't peaceful. The mouth hung open as if caught mid-plea. His fingers blackened at the tips. There were crescent marks around his own neck, like he'd clawed himself trying to breathe. The coroner said it was reflex. I didn't believe him. The mortuary was quiet that night, too quiet. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like someone else is holding their breath with you. The formalin pump clicked steadily, steady enough to be a heartbeat. I began the process, arteries opened, tubes set, but halfway through the injection, the pump stuttered. Then it started to pulse faster. I hadn't touched a thing. The glass reservoir rattled, sloshing pink fluid like it was boiling, and then I heard it, a sound rising inside the tube. Not air, not liquid, a voice, faint, muffled, wet. Jonah. My name. I froze, staring at the pump. The glass trembled harder. Jonah. It was clearer now, like it was being whispered right through the tubing. I yanked the line out, spilled preservative everywhere. Silence. When I looked back at the body, Arthur's eyes were open, wide, clouded, staring straight at me. I told myself it was gas release, reflex. I covered his face, cleaned up, locked the mortuary, but I couldn't shake that voice. All night, every time I blinked, I saw those eyes open under the sheet. The next day, the grave was ready. Frost rimed the edges, and the morning fog sat low and thick. I dug alone. I always do. Midway through, the ground gave a hollow thud. Strange there shouldn't have been a coffin that shallow. I scraped carefully, expecting wood. Instead, the shovel hit iron. A handle, old. It was another coffin, not on the register. The wood was black, slick with age, sealed with rusted nails. There was no nameplate. My chest tightened. I should have stopped. Should have called the church warden, but curiosity is a curse in this job. I pried it open. Inside lay bones wrapped in decayed linen, but the skullet wasn't right. The mouth was sewn shut with heavy wire, thick, uneven. Around the neck hung a tarnished tag, the kind used for morgue records. The name was scratched off. Only one word was still legible beneath the corrosion returned. The ground behind me shifted. Not wind, not footsteps. More like something exhaling through the soil. I slammed the lid, covered the hole, and left it marked as ready for burial. I told myself I'd imagined it. That night though, when I went back to the mortuary, Arthur's body was gone. Not missing gone. The slab was clean, tools still laid out, tubes coiled neatly. The tag with his name was there, but no body. I checked every room, every locker, nothing. Then, faintly, from the direction of the graveyard, I heard the sound of digging. I ran out into the cold, boots slipping on the frost. The fog was so thick it swallowed the lantern light, but I could hear it, metal striking earth. Slow, deliberate, a shovel scraping wood, my own shovel. The sound stopped the moment I reached the grave. The soil looked freshly turned. My breath hung white and trembling in the air, and there just beneath the surface I saw it. Fingers, not bones, flesh gray and slick with dirt, curling up through the soil as if reaching for air. I fell backward, heart hammering, clawed at the frozen ground until my nails split. But when I blinked, the hand was gone, just dirt again. I ran. I left everything to his lantern, even my jacket. I didn't stop until the church lights came into view. Father Mullen found me at dawn, still sitting on the steps, shaking. He thought I was drunk. When I took him back, the grave was smooth, undisturbed. The old iron coffin was still buried beneath, sealed tight. But Arthur's grave, the one I dug for him, was empty. We reburied the spot the next day, said prayers, filled it in. The father called it a clerical mix-up, but that night, the mortuary door was open again. The smell hit me first, wet earth, iron, and something sweet underneath, like decay mixed with perfume. On the table lay the old morgue tag that said returned. The lights flickered, then they went out completely. I stood frozen in the dark, my ears filled with a low scratching sound, metal against tile, coming from under the slab. Slow, deliberate scraping, like someone dragging their nails across stone. I bolted for the door, but it slammed shut behind me. Something pressed against my back, cold and wet. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. I reached for the latch, my hands shaking so hard I nearly broke the key. The whisper came again, right against my ear. "You put me under the wrong one." The door burst open. I fell into the mud outside, gasping. The wind howled through the graveyard, carrying a faint sound beneath its shovels, striking earth. Dozens of them. Every grave. The soil trembled, shifting like breath beneath a blanket. One by one, headstones tilted, earth loosening. Something was rising. I ran. I don't even remember reaching the gate. When I looked back, the fog had swallowed the cemetery whole. Only one light glowed faintly through it inside the mortuary. The pump was running again. I quit the next morning, packed my things, never went back. But sometimes, on still nights, when the wind dies and the air feels heavy, I swear I hear that same hum, the pump, the scraping, the whisper under the floor. They say the dead don't speak. Maybe they shouldn't, but once you've heard them, once you've buried the wrong one, you never stop listening. And sometimes, when the fog rolls thick across the fields and the earth softens beneath your feet, I swear if you listen closely you can hear them digging still. I've been an embalmer and gravedigger for 23 years. I know the smell of the dead better than my own skin. Most nights I work alone, a lamp, a shovel, and the hum of the pump for company. You learn to love silence until the silence starts to answer back. The night it began, the town had lost power. Only the generator buzzed inside the mortuary, throwing sickly yellow light across the tiles. The air was thick with cold phenol and rain seeping through the roof. The body was a woman mid-30s, no ID, found in the river, pale as wax, hair tangled with reeds. Her eyes were still open. Sometimes they stay that way, sometimes they don't. I closed them, but they opened again before I finished setting the jaw. Reflex. I told myself reflex. When I turned on the pump, the motor coughed and then steadied, rhythm like a second heart in the room. The fluid ran clear through the tubing. Then it darkened, thick, slow. It smelled like the river. A bubble formed at the edge of her lips. It burst with a whisper. I froze. I could have sworn it said my name. Jonah. I stepped back. The pump sputtered again. The line quivered, drawing in air from somewhere. I shut it off. Checked the vent perfect, but the whisper came again. Louder now, wet and guttural. "Jonah, help me." I dropped the scalpel. The blade clanged against the table, and that tiny sound echoed too long, like it was bouncing down a tunnel that shouldn't be there. I wrapped her, sealed the bag, locked the cooler, told myself it was exhaustion, went home. But when I woke before dawn, there was mud under my nails. Fresh, wet mud. I don't remember digging that night. The cemetery lights flickered on by themselves. I went out with the lantern. Fog hung low over the stones, heavy enough to drink. My boots sank into soft ground where it should have been frozen. And every grave I passed, breathed. You could hear it, the soil rising and falling, slow as sleep. Halfway down the row, I saw the fresh plot where I was meant to lay the river woman. The ground was already open, 6 feet deep. Shovel stuck upright in the center. I hadn't dug it. Inside the hole was water, still black, glassy. I leaned closer. My reflection blinked back at me. Then it smiled. I fell backward, lantern smashing beside me, flame flaring in the wet grass. When I looked again, the hole was empty, no water, no reflection, just earth. I ran back to the mortuary. The cooler door stood wide. Every drawer was open, every tag missing. The smell hit me, silt, rot, riverweed, the kind that seeps into your teeth. And beneath it, a faint electric hum. The pump was running again. The hose trailed to the middle of the floor where a puddle spread. In the puddle floated the missing toe tag. It read, "Unknown female returned." The same word that had appeared once before, years ago, on a coffin I was told never to open. The puddle rippled. The floor shook softly, as if something beneath was breathing. Then the tiles cracked. Pale fingers pushed through, slick with embalming fluid. I stumbled back, hit the table, and felt something behind me move, a cold hand wrapping around my ankle. I kicked free, scrambled toward the door, but it wouldn't budge. The voice came again, right behind my ear, whispering through the dark, "You put me in the wrong ground." The room flooded with the smell of the river. The light died. In the pitch black, I heard shovels, not one, dozens, all around, striking dirt, slow, patient, then silence. When the generator finally caught again, the room was clean. No puddle, no crack. The cooler doors closed. My shovel leaning against the wall, mud fresh on the blade. I left, packed what I could carry, and drove. But the road out of town loops past the graveyard. Every time I pass it now, the lanterns are lit. though no one tends them, and sometimes, in the mirror I see her walking between the stones, pale dress, dripping river water, eyes wide, looking for me. Last week a storm flooded the cemetery. The ground collapsed, exposing half the graves. The police called for help to rebury them. I said no, I'm done digging. But last night, someone left a spade against my door, caked with black river mud, my name carved into the handle. I can hear the pump running again, even though I'm miles away. And when the wind dies, I swear I hear it soft and steady coming from beneath my floorboards. Shovel, pause, shovel. They're still digging, and they're getting closer. They say a man gets used to the smell of death. That's a lie, you never get used to it. You just stop noticing when it follows you home. I've been an embalmer and gravedigger for 17 years. My hands have touched more cold flesh than warm. I used to think the job was sacred, giving peace to the dead. Now I think it's a trade. You take from the silence, and sometimes the silence takes back. It began on a wet Thursday. I was working the late shift, finishing the body of a young man named Peter Cali, 28. Motorcycle crash, broken jaw, one eye still open when they brought him in, the other caved in like wet plaster. I set him up on the table. Same process as always. Drain, clean, stitch, inject, close, routine. The hum of the pump was steady. I could almost match my breathing to it. Then I felt it a tremor through the floor, just once, like someone walked behind me, but the doors were locked. The tremor came again, softer, and with it, a sound, a low dragging, from under the slab. It lasted 5 seconds, long enough to know I hadn't imagined it. I turned the pump off. The hum died, leaving only the ticking of the clock. Silence, then a whisper, right beside my ear. Not him. I spun around. Empty room. My breath came short, cold. I told myself it was the pipes. Old building, drafts in the foundation. That's all. When I looked back at Peter, his hand had fallen off the table. I hadn't touched him. The fingers pointed toward the drain in the floor. The drain was gurgling like something breathing through it. I put his hand back, wrapped him, and left early. Told the night watch to seal the room. Didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hand reaching down, pointing into the dark. The next morning, the foreman met me by the gate. Said the floor in the prep room had sunk overnight. Just a few inches, like something had hollowed the earth beneath it. I told him to call a contractor. He said no. Said it wasn't worth the trouble. We buried Peter that afternoon. 2 days later, the grave collapsed. I was sent to redig it. Standard procedure. Rain does that sometimes. But as I worked, the soil kept sliding inward. Not mud, just loose, dry earth, even though it had poured for days. When my shovel hit the coffin, it sounded hollow, wrong. I pried the lid open. Empty. I didn't move, didn't breathe, just stared at that dark rectangle of nothing, feeling the cold creep into my boots. Behind me, something shifted. A scrape. Slow, deliberate. When I turned, there was another grave open halfway down the row. Peter Cali's headstone stood beside it, tilted like it had been moved. And there he was, standing at the bottom of the second hole, face pale, jaw stitched shut, holding the same shovel I'd dropped an hour earlier. He looked up at me, one eye black with soil, the other glassy and still. Then he spoke through the thread. Not words, a moan, thick and trembling. I ran. I told no one who would believe me. They'd say stress. Too much night work, too much death. But the floor in the prep room kept sinking. Every night, an inch lower. Then came the smell. Not rot, not chemical, old soil. Like something tunneling up from underneath. Last week I stayed after hours. I had to know. I moved the table, ripped up the tiles. Beneath the slab was a hatch. A door I'd never seen before, iron heavy, no hinges. Just a ring handle and a mark burned into the center. The shape of a circle crossed with a line. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. There was a tunnel, narrow, wet. The walls were made of packed earth, and they breathed. You could see them pulse when the air shifted. At the end, a light flickered. I crawled toward it, scraping my hands raw. The tunnel opened into a small chamber lined with coffins. Not wooden ones. Stone. Cracked. Ancient. On each lid, a name carved shallowly, half erased, and on one my own. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The air hummed, like that old pump. Faint but steady. Then I heard footsteps above me, soft, rhythmic. Someone walking in the prep room, then another pair, and another. The sound multiplied, echoing through the soil, dozens of feet pacing above. Then a whisper, all around me, rising from the cracks between the stones. Not him, not yet. I crawled backward, through the tunnel, choking on dust and breath and fear. When I burst through the hatch, the prep room was dark. The lights were out, the pump silent, but the table wasn't empty. Peter Kali was lying there again, fresh, clean, waiting, and beside him, another body bag, my tag on it. I didn't look inside. I sealed the door, boarded it, left the key on the desk. I've been sleeping in my truck since then, outside the cemetery gates. Every night I hear the same sound beneath the tires, soft scraping, shovel against stone, and sometimes, when the engine is off and the fog is thick, I see footprints leading out from under the ground, one pair, then two, then more, all pointing toward the gate. They stop beside my truck. They never go back. Last night I dreamed of the hatch. This time it wasn't empty. The coffin with my name on it was open, and inside I was smiling. Now, when the wind dies, I can hear the pump again, far away, like it's running under the soil. The whisper comes with it, soft, patient. Jonah, not him. Then another voice answers from beneath the truck. Then who? And I swear, for just a second, I feel something tap the bottom of the floorboard. Once, twice, digging, they say, you can bury the dead. But sometimes, they remember the way back. And sometimes, I remember you. They call me the last man to touch the dead. It's true. No one else will work the night shift anymore. The others quit after the winter collapsed the day half the old graveyard caved in on itself. Coffins split, bones scattered like driftwood. They said it was groundwater. I know better. I'm the one who hears them. The ground talks after dark. Little sighs, little murmurs rising from the soil. At first I thought it was wind moving through roots. But the roots don't whisper names. It started with Mrs. Hill, 83, heart failure. Peaceful, they said. I was alone when she arrived. Midnight frost, turning the windows white. She looked almost alive. Lips pressed tight, hands folded like prayer. Her wedding band was stuck, fused to the skin. I hesitated before cutting it free. Felt wrong, somehow. The generator light flickered once. Then again, when it steadied, her eyes were open, wide, blue as candle flame. I stepped back, the pupils followed, then the lights died. The darkness wasn't empty, it was crowded. You could feel the air shift, like someone brushing past your shoulder, soft and deliberate. The smell of soil filled the room, thick, sweet, ancient. When the lights came back, she was gone. Only the ring lay on the slab. I searched every cooler, every corner, nothing. I told myself she'd been moved. Record mix-up, happens all the time. Until the next night, the fresh graves in the western field had sunk again 3 inches, maybe more, and at the center of the depression sat that ring, gleaming wet in the moonlight. I should have left it, but I picked it up. The second I touched it, the air around me dropped 10 degrees. The ground beneath my boots shifted, soft like breath. And then I heard it, a voice, faint, muffled from beneath the soil. Come down. I dropped the ring and ran. The next day, the foreman found me shaking behind the tool shed, said I looked gray, told me to take time off. I said no, you can't just stop, the dead don't wait. That night I went back. I needed to see. Fog thick as milk covered the stones. My lantern cut a narrow path of gold through it, just enough to see the earth moving, slow, pulsing, like breathing. Then, from the distance, a scraping, metal wood shovel, but it wasn't me. The sound was coming from inside one of the graves, one that was supposed to be empty. I knelt, brushed back the dirt. Fingers broke through the surface, thin, twisting, searching. They caught my wrist, cold, strong. I couldn't move. The ground shuddered, then stilled. When I pulled free, there was no hand, no hole, just earth, smooth, undisturbed. I told the priest. He blessed the grounds, said words over the soil until his voice cracked, but the whispering didn't stop, it only grew louder. Every night now, the pump starts itself, even unplugged. The embalming fluid runs clear for a while, then turns black, thick as ink, and always, just before dawn, the whisper changes. It used to say, come down. Now it says, dig deeper. Last night I gave in. I dug beneath the oldest plot, the one marked only with a cross of stone. 3 feet down, I hit something hard. Metal, but not coffin metal. Smooth, cold, circular. It pulsed beneath my hand, like a heartbeat. When I pulled back, the soil above it cracked in a perfect ring. A door, maybe, a seal. Something beneath it, whispered, not words. This time, just breath. Then I heard every grave around me sigh at once. The sound rolled through the cemetery like wind through reeds, and the air filled with the smell of earth and embalming fluid and candle wax. My lantern went out. In the dark, I saw light below, not fire, not reflection. A dim blue glow leaking up through the cracks, and inside it faces hundreds, pressing up through the soil. I fell backward. The shovel slipped from my hand, slid into the light. Something grabbed it. The ground sealed shut, the whisper stopped. When the sun rose, the cemetery looked calm, too calm, but the graves weren't where they had been. The rows had shifted, like the earth had rearranged them overnight, and the seal-eyed uncovered gone now. When I walk between the stones, I feel the hum beneath my feet, the same rhythm as the pump, a slow, steady pulse running through the whole field. Sometimes, at dusk, the fog turns blue, and when it does, I can hear the voices again, hundreds of them, all breathing in unison, whispering one word: below. I think there's something under us, not spirits, not ghosts, something older, something that remembers what it buried. The soil moves at night now. I've stopped digging, but it hasn't stopped breathing. Last night I woke to find dirt under my nails again, and a new headstone by my window. No name, just a date. Tomorrow's. They warned me not to take the night shift, said the place changes after midnight. I laughed, thought it was superstition. Now I know better. My name's Eli. I started last month, assistant embalmer, trainee gravedigger. Jonah, the old one, disappeared. They said he quit, but the locals still whisper his name when the fog rolls in. The first night was quiet, too quiet. No hum from the pump, no creak from the rafters, just the faint throb of the generator and the smell of bleach and soil. I tried not to look at the empty slab in the corner, the one they said Jonah used to work at. It still had his tools laid out: scalpel, scissors, forceps, all clean, all waiting. At 2 in the morning, I heard it. The pump started on its own. The switch was off. The power light flickered once, twice, then steady. I followed the sound. It wasn't coming from the prep room, it was coming from beneath it. The floor trembled. The drain in the center gurgled like it was swallowing air. Then the smell hit: wet soil, candle wax, and something sharp, like ozone after lightning. The pump stuttered, then hissed. Fluid sprayed across the tiles, dark and thick, sliding toward the drain. The drain swallowed it, then whispered. I swear to God it whispered my name. I ran, locked the door, sat outside on the steps until sunrise. The next day, I told the caretaker. He looked at me for a long time and said, "Only this. If it calls you by name, don't answer." That night, I brought coffee, a flashlight, and my phone. I wasn't leaving until I found out what was under that floor. Around midnight, the lights flickered again. The pump started. The drain began to hum. I got down on my knees, pressed my ear to the tile. A sound rose up through its oft rhythmic, like breathing through mud. Then voices, faint, overlapping, hundreds of them. They weren't words, more like a song, low, wet, endless. The floor moved beneath me, just slightly, enough to feel the shape of something shifting below. Then the drain cover popped loose. Water or something like it bubbled up, black and glossy. Inside it I saw eyes, dozens of them, floating, blinking. I stumbled back. The fluid rippled once, then sank, leaving only the echo of that song behind. I should have left, but I couldn't. Curiosity is a sickness in this job, so I lifted the drain cover. Underneath there was no pipe, just dirt, fresh, soft dirt. I started digging. Hands, not shovel. Couldn't stop myself. A few inches down, I touched something smooth, metal, cold, circular. A ring, big enough for both hands to grip. It moved when I pulled. Air rushed outward, heavy, reeking of formalin and soil. And then the voice, right beside my ear. "Jonah's waiting." Something grabbed my wrist. Cold fingers, strong. I jerked free, fell backward, hit my head. When I opened my eyes, the drain was closed again. No hole, no ring, just tile. But the pump was still running. And in the glass reservoir, something was floating. A morgue tag. It had my name on it. The lights died. The hum deepened until it felt like it was shaking my bones. Through the dark, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the slab. Jonah, same coat, same gloves, face pale, waxy, eyes hollow. He pointed at the floor. The tile cracked open beneath his boots, and the black water surged up, swallowing him whole. Then it reached for me. I don't remember running. I woke outside, lying on the gravel, hands covered in mud. The mortuary lights were still on, the pump still humming. I quit that morning, packed everything, but sometimes at night I hear the sound again. The same rhythm, the same hum, coming from under the ground, deep and steady. And every time I close my eyes, I see that morgue tag floating in the dark fluid, turning slowly, letter by letter. Eli. Sometimes, when I wake up, it's lying on my pillow, and I can hear Jonah's voice in the walls, whispering through the pipes. "Your turn." The ground outside my window is soft tonight. Too soft. If you hear digging before dawn, don't look out. It's only me. I'm almost through. And if you hear digging before dawn, don't look out. It's only me. I'm almost through, but tell me, when the dirt starts moving outside your window, will you pretend you don't hear it, or will you go see who's digging for you? If that sent a chill down your spine, hit like, share the story, and subscribe for the next one if you're brave enough to keep listening.